Collaboration is one of the top 4 skills that determine employee success in your organization. But how do you collaborate when you have different perspectives and vastly different communication styles? Hi, I'm Dale Fallon, and welcome to Live at the Gym, the place where we work out our communication skills so that we can improve the quality of our conversations. Before we meet today's very special guest, let's talk about communication styles and their impact on your world. The DISC framework is used to understand and explain how humans prefer to behave and communicate. Identifying your own DISC style is the first step in beginning to understand how miscommunications and misunderstandings can happen. It's one of the key elements that can create those misunderstandings. If you work with a team or in a group setting, which most of us do, then you know how important it is to understand how others communicate and behave. And in today's Live at the Gym, we're going to focus on team dynamics and how they relate with the DISC communication styles. Think about your own team and who belongs in each of these teams. 4 different communication styles. The D style is the get it done team. The I style, it's called the get recognition team. The S team, how about the get along team? And the C team, the get it right team. If these are very general determinations of these different teams, we can learn to understand each other by recognizing what each of these teams need. You may only have 3 people, you may have 30 people on your team, but understanding the differences is going to go a long way to help you work together and get the most out of the strengths and weaknesses of your team. So let's introduce our featured guests today, none other than the Communication Gym team. Heather Dravik is our curriculum director. She's got over 20 years of curriculum building experience. And Beth Montgomery, our social media and brand manager. In addition to building our course curriculum, Heather keeps us all focused on task, and she runs our meetings and most meetings and ensures that we know who is doing what by when, the 3 W's, if you followed that one. Beth is the creative source behind our social media campaigns, our brand image, and our website. Heather and Beth, welcome to the front side of the camera.
Thanks for having us, Dale.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I know you're both very excited. I appreciate you jumping into this conversation. We're going to do it a little bit different today than our lives. We're not going to have a workout. We're going to have a conversation. And I thought it would be an interesting look behind the scenes to see how our understanding of styles and our different styles, because we have very different styles, how we've adapted, what we've learned, and how it works for us. So I think, Heather, why don't I start with you with the first question about how what challenges you faced working with the different styles here and our team, and maybe start with what your natural top style is, or 2 styles.
So I'm unique in the team in that I'm not super high anywhere, and I kind of hover around the middle line. My I and my S are my strongest natural styles, but my C and my D are approaching them. So I'm not an extreme communication style on the team, and you both are more on the extreme sides. So I find myself wedged a bit in the middle, and I'm kind of I don't want to say the go-between, but I soften your 2 extremes. And I carry that burden in some ways. Does that answer your question?
It does. We'll dive into the burden that you carry in a little bit. Beth, tell us a little bit about your styles and what challenges maybe you faced in a general sense.
Yeah. So I'm a high S, which I'm not that jazzed about, because I always thought high S's were like the boring, because it's steady and all that. But the challenges of being in meetings with you 2, like seeing the D and seeing the mediator and my style, like I want everyone to get along. And so sometimes like the biggest challenge is like feeling that uncomfortableness of like any challenges that come up. I definitely don't like challenges, like fighting, like in meetings. So I just want everyone to get along.
And we have, so my natural styles are the D and the I, and they've actually gotten a little higher in those 2 as I've grown. gotten older, I guess is a better way to say that. And when you refer to challenges, for me, those are the standard. Let's like a conversation. So, and I'm sure that's where Heather, you jump in and go, okay, wait a minute, pause for a second. Let's see what we need to do here.
Because I think I'm the one in the team who's thinking, well, Dale's thinking this, and Beth is thinking this right now, and you're both going in opposite directions, and I'm trying to, whoa, this is where we should be right now. So that's a definite challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
And for different reasons.
Well, all of us on this video, and then also all of us out in the working world, because when those divergence start to happen, the pressure starts to build up. And it's not one of the main things to understand about the DISC styles and communication styles is there's not a right or wrong. There's a perspective, and there's a way of seeing it and a way of approaching it. And there is a time to be a high D and a high I. There are situational requirements. When there's a fire in the building, making sure everybody's comfortable with our escape plan is not necessarily the best time for us to sit back and make sure everybody's okay. But when we're making a change to the organization, or we're moving in a different direction, or bringing something up, that's definitely not the time for the D to say, just get it done, forget about it, let's move forward. So knowing how to respect those styles is a challenge, and it keeps us on our toes a little bit. Yes, Beth?
Yes. Yeah. And as a small business, like there have been a lot of shifts and changes, and it's interesting to see, to observe like my reaction to those changes when you're like, let's do this, and I'm like, whoa, and then Heather's, you're just so good at keeping the glue together of this is where we need to go, keeping that steady pace that I identify with, and also getting the things done that you like to get done, Dale.
I do like to get things done. I think it makes for an interesting, and one of the things that I think we have done well as a team, and I also want to encourage this as an understanding, is being respectful of the different styles, of knowing and acknowledging, which really creates a safer space. It doesn't mean it's always comfortable. It doesn't mean that, that burden that you're carrying, Heather, or that change and adaptation for you, Beth, isn't discomfort or the slowing down. It's not that it's discomfort. It's not that it's, all sunshine and roses and, oh, I always feel warm and fuzzy when we're doing it. It's the expansion of your understanding to accept and realize that these diverse opinions and diverse approaches help us make a better product. They help us serve a wider group of people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Heather, you have been a teacher for a long time. Have you seen styles play themselves out in the classroom?
In the classroom with students, you mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I can picture a room of students, and you have the students who need a little more time to process and aren't going to fly off with a response, kind of Beth style. Let me think about this before I talk about it, or add my comments, versus those more like you, Dale, that are just, let's go and let's get this done.
Yeah.
So absolutely. You see that. We don't call them DISC styles in the classroom necessarily, but absolutely the way we communicate and behave is unique to each one of us, and teachers have to acknowledge those differences and work with those differences.
Yeah. And create that environment where those differences are respected too, and balanced. And
can all thrive and learn and grow at the same time. And in the workplace, we should all be thriving and growing and learning too. So the world to me is one big giant classroom, and it still is, no matter what I'm doing.
No matter what. Well, that's a good transition for us to talk maybe a little bit about any adaptations that you have made. Each of us may have made through the course of working together here. Beth, you want to lead the way here with your S style? What are some of the adaptations that you've made to keep things moving and thrive in the environment?
Sure. So like having to get to the point, bullet points, and being more assertive in my language. That's been one. I sent you a document. There was like the long 6-pager, and then there's the D at a glance page where it's like just the bullet points. Give me the answers. And while that's uncomfortable for me, it's an opportunity for growth. And the ability to shift and change and learn and grow even within this team has been helpful even in the outside world.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great example. So I'll go next with some of the adaptations I've made, because when you sent me that 6-page document, my first reaction was, here we go. But I read the whole thing. I read through each of the, and I absorbed it all. And then I went back to the 1-page document. It's like, okay, this is all I needed. But staying in that to try to gain the perspective of all the things that were important to you was one way that I adapted to that. And that's a good situation to put it into context of how we can do a better job. Heather, how about you?
So the first thing that comes to mind is when I meet with Beth versus if I meet with you separately. And even in a team, I'm aware of this, but when I meet with Beth, we start slow, we chit chat a little bit at the beginning, because I know if I run straight into the Zoom or the meeting with her and I say, all right, today, this is what we're going to do. Like it's too much, it's too quick. But with you, Dale, I don't have to think about that. If I have something on my mind, I'm going to say to you as soon, hey, this is what we're talking about. And you don't freeze. You're like, okay, great, let's talk about it. So it's a big thing that I'm very intentional about in a meeting.
Yeah.
Or at least I try to be, Beth. I don't always succeed, but I try to be intentional.
Well, and and look at what Beth appreciates it with her hand on her heart. And I was just about to say, I love it when you start the meeting with boom, right? If we start with chit chat, I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad you had a good day. It's not that I don't like talking about how things are going and what the family is, but when there's a meeting time, that meeting starts at 9:00 and we go and we get it done and we get rocking and rolling in it. So it creates that. It is more than just a tactical approach. It's an emotional deposit in the bank account. It is a literal deposit in my bank account to get down to business, as it is, Beth. And if I'm wrong, let me know. It's a deposit in your bank account for Heather to take the time to engage in that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are just little ways that we can start and learn to make those deposits and learn to build that rapport. And this is going to come full circle so we can wrap up, is when you build the rapport, you have a stronger emotional bank account for when you don't do a great job, or when the time isn't right to adapt, when it is time to just cut to the chase and make things happen. I hope that my bank account is high enough that even though it's not going to be comfortable for Beth or Heather necessarily, that we can still make the move, or vice versa. When it's time for me to slow down and I need to make sure that I hear what Beth or Heather are saying and really take my time, my emotional bank account is high enough and the respect is there for the diversity to know and to make sure that we can get through that and strengthen the relationship. Because to be honest with you, that is and I'll go to the profit side of things. Teams that get along there's different research studies, but usually about 40% more effective. That's massive. There's a Stephen M.R. Covey did his book about the emotional bank account, and it is a huge distinction in terms of productivity when teams trust each other and they're not constantly defending themselves. So it builds a lot of rapport and connectivity so that you can do a great job. Any other closing thoughts, Heather, about?
We could talk about this we do talk about this all the time, but
We do.
But for the sake of the stream, I'm good.
All right.
Same.
It's like we've just shared our deep secrets.
and important, and I'm glad that you both were willing to do this, and I hope it's helpful for people to watch and listen and see kind of how we deal with it, and if there's any way that we can help people to do a better job. That's the purpose of the Communication Gym, is to help you practice and develop these skills. So quick recap, look at yourself and look at your team. Pay attention to the communication styles. Again, it starts with you recognizing your own style and then being able to recognize others, and importantly, adapt depending on who you're speaking with and who you're dealing with. I want to invite everyone here. First of all, thank Heather and Beth for joining. And I want to invite you to join us here Thursdays on LinkedIn for more communication workouts. Don't forget, practice until you can't get it wrong. Grab the complimentary playbook in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our blog for more communication practice tips and exercises. And we will see you at the gym.